Om Shri Guru Namaha Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Atmasvarupa Bandhugana. Now a few questions. Vedantins are always happy to adopt fresh ideas from other darshanas which can support and strengthen the Advaita vision. Yeah, we have seen this. Science and Vedanta go together, we have seen that. This is also seen. It's okay. Third question is also answered. How are we to understand celebration or festivals from Advaita perspective? We avoid them. Celebration or a festival is an attempt to escape from the sorrow of life. Life is harsh, sorrowful, very disappointing, and it makes us anxious. And therefore, we are consciously or unconsciously trying to escape from life. And as long as you escape from life, you do not understand the problems of life. Therefore, you cannot even solve anything. The problems will be recurring. And so, there are many escapes. Some of the escapes are in the form of religious activities, and some are like festivals, etc. So like that. There may be worthy exceptions, but the students of Vedanta would prefer solitude, contemplation, study and meditation. That is what they prefer, not celebrations and festivals. Also, maybe in America festivals are okay, I suppose, but in a country like India, which is a poor country, where rich people live, these festivals, they command or they demand a lot of attention, lot of resources, and a lot of money and all that. Like marriage festival. Marriage is a solemn occasion, but they convert it into a meaningless festival and spend loads of money, collect people and spend money, eat as much as you can and then throw the rest. They pollute the atmosphere, air, water and land, and they are very insensitive to the poverty around, to the social distinctions around, very insensitive. And so on one side there is a very, very below the poverty line lifestyle, and on the other side there is the rich people wasting resources. Both exist side by side. And that is how the society is. But the students of Vedanta should know better than that. And they should not engage in any of this activity. Are not all days created by the higher power? Now, why do you bring in higher power? Higher power is the common parameter for everything. When you do good, there is higher power. When you don't do not so much good, then also it is higher power. Generally, you have to look at, you have to pinpoint the specifics. Don't bring in generals. Okay. So, aren't all, suppose you want to talk about weather, how the weather is going to be in the coming 2 days. Then you have to talk about a particular hurricane that has taken shape and it is coming, and certain bands and weather, rain. That way you have to talk. Suddenly you shift to the higher power, then bad weather is also higher power, good weather is also higher power, then there is no basis for the discussion of specifics anymore. Anyway, please don't mind. If so, are there good days and bad days? There are no good days and bad days. That is a good question. There are no good days and bad days. That is a good question. All days are created by the higher power. And in this case, the higher power happens to be the sun. And earth going round the sun, even while going round itself. That is how all days and nights are created. And all days and nights are equally good. But once we start naming them, we make a calendar. And it has some basic good purpose also. Making a calendar has certain advantages. There were civilizations in which there was no calendar. They lived happily. Happiness is not dependent upon calendar. But then for good or bad there is a calendar and people are following it. And immediately you start naming the days and months and years also in the Indian calendar, Indian almanac. Some of these names are very meaningful. The naming is done by those rishis, the stargazers. They were gazing at the stars and they have understood the movement of the stars. They plotted the movement of the stars very meticulously and connected certain stars with certain seasons. That kind of a big work, very difficult work it is. They have done it. They have done it BC. In many cultures it is there. Egyptian pharaohs have some such knowledge. Mayan and Inca people have some such knowledge. And of course Indian civilization also had that knowledge. And therefore they made some connections between the shifting the position of stars and the seasons that happen around us. And by putting a few things together, arrived at an almanac. It is not done in one day or 1 year. It is done over a few generations. For example, the Gregorian calendar that we are following nowadays all over the world, it used to have only 10 months to begin with. Year has 10 months. And then they found this 10 months is wrong. Because Earth takes more than 10 months to go round the sun. It takes 12 months to be precise. So by the time they arrived at all these conclusions, it took a few centuries. And suddenly they found that this 10-month year, a calendar like that, is not correct. Therefore, after elaborate observations and calculations, they concluded that they have to add 2 months. 2 into 360 days they have to add. 2 months they have to add. So they have added those names commemorating the great kings of Rome, Julius and Augustine. And that is how we have got July and August. September is 7, October is 8, November is 9, Nava, December is 10, Dasha. So to begin with, there was no July and August, but they were added later. So this is how the calendars have been created. And in the Indian context, the religion is the mainstream of Indian society. Therefore, you will have religious belief incorporated into every single aspect of life. No aspect is left out. Calendar also. Calendar is only it helps us to plan our life in a particular way. And the communications and other things will be more effective. That is the idea of a calendar. But then religion enters into it, religious beliefs. And therefore, the names, which are originally based on astronomical observations and therefore scientific, now become religious. The science is forgotten. By the time Indian society passed through golden age, starting from 5th century BC to starting from 2nd century BC to 5th century AD or CE, the 7 centuries, that was the golden period, Swarna Yugam. Once we passed through that, by the time the golden period ended, all our knowledge of science has vanished and it is taken over by religious superstitions and beliefs. That was also the cause for the downfall of Indian society, which was conquered by foreigners, and it remained under the yoke of slavery for more than a millennium. Therefore, the point is, there is religion in everything. A belief. Religion is what? Organized belief. In everything. And some of the beliefs are okay, but some of them are very wrong. Superstitions they are. So that is how everything is divided into good, bad, etc. That is how it happened. Monday is good, but Tuesday is bad. Wednesday is good again. Saturday is very bad. Like that. Then the day is divided into various periods. Gandakala, Rahukala, Mrutyukala, all names which frighten people. Ganda means there is some danger to your life. Mrityu is death. And occasionally there is Amruta Kala also. Like that you divide the day into various parts, and then the whole thing goes on and on and on. All this is are superimpositions of a believing mind. There is no basis to that. There is no basis in the Vedanta Shastra or any Shastra for that matter. All these books that are written, they do not make a Shastra. They are called Shastra. And certainly they don't have basis in any science. That's why you should go for science and Vedanta. You should philosophy. These two should guide your life. Then what about religion? The religion must be true religion, not the religion of the masses. Celebrating birthday, Shashtaputi, etc. Good. It looks like almost all religions, philosophies, ashrams glorify the founder, God, and celebrate events in the life of the founder, etc. How are we to understand this? Some of this falls under the category of Abilene Paradox. Meaning, a function is being done, and 10 people are conducting the function. 10 people come together and conduct the function. Individually, not one of them is interested in the function. If you separate them, all the 10, separate them, and no communication between them, then you understand what is in their mind. Nobody is interested in that function. But when the 10 come together, somehow something happens and they all decide to conduct the function. This is called Abilene Paradox. You understand? Abilene is the name of a town in Texas, and this paradox is somehow connected to the town. And this is the paradox. So big function will be going on. The main people who are conducting that function, individually no one is interested in that function, but collectively they do it. Like that it happens. So like 10 people are sitting, one of them proposes, let us get some good sweet and coffee from the market. One of them proposes casually. He is not that much interested really. But for some reason it slips out of his mouth. And then the opinion is taken. Everybody says yes, though he is not interested in coffee and sweet at the time. Because maybe other people want it, why should we interfere? Like that everybody says yes, and therefore coffee and sweets arrive. And everybody takes it. Nobody is interested in it. This is the Abilene Paradox. And quite often it happens like that. And also sometimes they create systems, put systems in place, and they have to be put to some use, and there is no use, and therefore imagine something and do it. And I already told you life is very harsh and sorrowful, and therefore to escape from it, come out with some idea and do some celebration. Like that. There is a proverb in English. They did not find any reason for celebrating. Everybody was looking for a reason to celebrate, but there was no reason around to celebrate. Then somebody's hat fell below. And so someone else said, yes, now the hat has fallen. His hat has fallen. That is a good occasion for celebrating. Yes, they celebrated. There is a proverb like that. Let us celebrate, the hat has fallen. Hat falls, they throw the hat, it falls. So something like that. Means they really don't need a meaningful reason for celebrating, just to celebrate. Then in India, religion is the mainstream, and religion has countless branches and sects. Countless. And every sect has its own celebration and festival. So if you count, when somebody counted, how many public holidays has to be declared in a year? Somebody counted. 300 public holidays have to be declared in a year to cover the important festivals of all communities and sects. That is how India is. That's why in India, the public institutions, they are for more than half the year they are closed. Once I met a German professor in a conference, and I was inquiring about a few things. Then I asked him, in a year, academic year, how many working days will be there in the university? We were attending a conference in the university only, in some university in India. He calculated and briefly calculated and told 245 days in a year we work. Sunday is removed, like that some holidays are removed, 245 days. Out of 365 days, 245 days they work. 120 days is not working day. For university, where there are summer holidays, etc. He asked me, how many you do in India? Officially, the university official year calendar is declared at the beginning of the year. In that official calendar itself, there are 180 working days, 180. But on average, every year we have strikes, and a politician dies and therefore holiday declared. There was heavy rain, therefore holiday declared. And there is some political dharna, therefore holiday declared. National election holiday, local election holiday, municipality election holiday. Every election, there will be elections all through the year. Carefully calculating, no year we work more than 130 or 140 days. Another 30-40 days lost. That's why the nation can never develop. It remains developing only. Why I am saying all this? Let me find out why I am saying all this. So, this is how it goes on. Human mind is like that. So social functions and then religious functions. So functions galore. So go on celebrating one thing or the other. Sometimes they invite me for a function. I said, I do not recognize the function, so I am not coming. Like that. Looks like all religions, philosophies don't do it. Ashrams do it because ashrams, they have their own, they create systems and become imprisoned in those systems. Then founder is no more around. So when the founder is not around, everybody will do what he likes to do in the name of the founder. They invoke the name of the founder and do whatever they like. If the founder suddenly appears and says, I don't want it, still they drive away the founder and do it anyway. And if the founder is alive, they never follow the founder properly. Once the founder is no more, just invoke the name of the founder, put the name there and do whatever you like. So this is how these institutions, ashrams, etc., in Rishikesh and Haridwar, etc., you find many things like that. It goes on. How are we to understand this? This is how samsara is. That is what you have to understand. Samsara is ruled by nescience. And so keep away from all that. What are the books by Swami Ramdas? That's a good question. I suggest you go to the Ananda Ashram website. They have a monthly. That itself is very inspiring. Articles from Swami Ramdas's teachings are published in it. And a few other good articles from great authors are also incorporated. That monthly of Ananda Ashram is always a joy to read. Very inspiring. So go to their website, Ananda Ashram, and see what are the books. I do not remember. You will get some. In human history, true objective inquiries into the nature of the self appear to have happened at the time when Upanishads were developed. Yes. Even Shankara mostly just studied these and reinterpreted their true meaning. Something more than that. By the time Shankara came onto the scene, these Upanishads were all commented upon by a great scholar by name Bhartruprapancha Acharya. He has already commented upon all the Upanishads, and his commentaries amount to what is popularly known as Dvaita, Dvaitam as well as Advaitam. And Shankara started studying the Upanishads and his commentary also, Bhartruprapanchacharya's commentary also, and he was very unconvinced. How can it be Dvaita? How can you make a combination of two such mutually exclusive thought processes? It is just meaningless. And therefore, he took it upon himself to dismantle the entire Dvaita. Even that Dvaita it was weighing towards Advaita only. Advaita they have accepted and incorporated into Advaita rather than accept Advaita and put some Advaita into it. Not like that. Advaita is the foundation, but some Advaita is put into it. That is how Bhartruprapancha has done it. Bhartruprapancha, Bodhayana, they have done like that. And Shankara has dismantled that system. We find it in Bhashyas. And he has established Advaita on a firm footing. Upanishads remain what they are. They are very amenable to a variety of interpretations. Upanishad statements are like that. Not every one of them, but quite a few of them. You can interpret it as this way or that way. Therefore, Shankara has put it on a firm footing, Advaita. There is some evidence that other religions and practices have also picked up from these. There is a cross-pollination because of the Silk Route movement, and also there were maritime relations between India and other countries. On that side, Asian countries like Thailand, Cambodia. Cambodia is Kamboja Desha, and Vietnam, etc. That side. And on this side, Egypt and Middle East, etc. There is cross-pollination. Therefore, many ideas from India, they come here, and many ideas from here go to India. For example, Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark is there in Bible, Noah. Noah it is called, Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark idea came from India, Matsyavatara. It came from there. And a few ideas went from here to there also. It is said even Jesus Christ travelled to Kashmir. And there is evidence to believe that. And so there is a cross-pollination. May not be to the equal effect, some less, some more. It appears that further improvements and development of understanding is not pursued. The answer is yes and no. Somewhere it is pursued, somewhere it is not pursued. But in Hindu civilization, there was a decline. Are we at the end of any possible improving of understanding into the nature of the self? Yes. Hindu civilization started declining after 5th century CE. CE means Christian era. And declined till 1895, when Swami Vivekananda addressed the Parliament of Religions, and Hindu Renaissance started in right earnestness, and it is still continuing. Therefore, there is a wider interest in the study of Vedanta all over the world. Practice of yoga is espoused all over the world, and therefore you can see Hindu Renaissance everywhere. Probably sitting here and discussing Kathopanishad in Pennsylvania, the land of Mr. Penn and Sylvania, so that itself is a good symbol of Upanishadic or Hindu Renaissance. It is happening. Good. Karma Yoga is the crux of whole Bhagavad Gita if understood properly. I agree with that. I know of few people who have disabled children as young adults for which there is no cure or surgery. There are such situations, yes. Disabled means physically handicapped, it could be mentally handicapped. And there is a third category of disability which we find in India a lot, particularly among women, that is schizophrenia. Therefore, physical disability, mental handicap, and schizophrenia. These disabilities are there in families, they are there. Families get devastated by these misfortunes. They are there, for which there is no cure, there is no surgery, etc. In this country, they treat, particularly schizophrenia and other mental disorders, they treat well. Whereas in India, there is no treatment, proper treatment even now. Things are improving here and there, but even now, the problems are not treated that well. And also there is social stigma, more in India than in other developed countries like here. Here, if you visit a psychiatrist, that is considered not entirely unusual. But in India, if you visit a psychiatrist, and if it is known, then it's a big stigma. You are a crazy fellow. You are a crackpot or whatever. Stigmatized. Therefore, they don't even go to a psychiatrist. They don't take professional help. And therefore, people suffer. Unfortunate. These things are there in many families. They are there. If there is a family without any such a huge problem, then that family is blessed. That is how it is. A young man, a person died in rather middle age, and his daughter is young, but not having mental ability or physical ability. Normal ability is not there. And when the child was born, the parents must have been very disheartened, certainly. But they don't express their sorrow or self-pity. They suffer silently. Many people in India, here also it must be there, I don't know how the social life goes here. I don't have much idea. But in India they silently suffer. They accept sometimes they shed tears, and some helplessness, some surrender to the higher power, knowingly or unknowingly, they get along with these major issues of life for which there is no solution. Sometimes they have self-pity also. And all prayers come from self-pity, you know that, all prayers. And these are all made up as recently as a few hundred years. Made up prayers. And you can find so much self-pity in all those prayers. Self-pity is one element. Fear of sin is another element. Sin, 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 sin. I think this is the Silk Route Abrahamic faith sin that must have come into Indian society. Sometimes I feel like that. Or maybe these people have put this sin to them. I don't know where this is sin. Everywhere sin. So much of sin. Mahapapa vinashanaha. Everywhere. Mahapapa, 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 Mahapapa. Bhrona hatya, Shishu hatya, Pitru hatya, Matru hatya, Guru hatya. Yeah, what is all this? Who will do all these hatyas? I don't know. They have never studied Gita or any Upanishad. True, they are karma yogis. Without studying Gita and Upanishads. You have to understand one thing. The Gita and Upanishad came from them, from such people. People do not come from Gita and Upanishads. Gita came from a person, from a realized soul called Shri Krishna. Kathopanishad came from a rishi called Katha. In conceptual Vedanta, they put the book in the first place and person behind. That's why that Vedanta remains as bookish Vedanta. You don't put book in the first place. Book is only a medium. It is the person's heart to person's heart. From the heart of Shankara to your heart. That is the communication. Book is only a medium. Therefore, when a person has that vision, knowingly or unknowingly, living that vision, you need not be surprised, because this is not about literacy and education. This is not about literacy. I tell you the one distinction which comes very strikingly. Suppose there is an announcement for a Vedanta course, let us say. The minimum qualification is a bachelor's degree. Like that they write. Minimum qualification, bachelor's degree. Which is very valid because the course is taught in English. And some language skills are needed. Without language skills, all these books, how can you study? And therefore, certain basic qualification you have to prescribe as the minimum qualification. Therefore, they put degree. But look at Shankara, what qualifications he is asking. Shankara is asking for qualifications. Sadhana Chatushtaya is an expression of Shankara. It is not from Upanishads. Chatushtaya, he categorized In Upanishads, many statements are there, scattered all over. And he curated all of them and came out with precise qualifications, 4 of them. And in that, language skills, grammar skills are not even mentioned. The qualifications are Viveka, Vairagya. These illiterate people have those 2. Whereas these country club Vedantins just lack those 2. That is the difference. Therefore, now you should not feel surprised if you come across an illiterate person with a lot of wisdom. You should not feel surprised. Suppose you feel surprised, how come? No education, formal education, yet so much wisdom. How come? Means you are conditioned to think in the first place that some degree qualification is required. You are conditioned in the first place. Therefore you are surprised. That's why this question, Ramana Maharshi did not study Shastra, how come he knows the self? This question came from a conditioning. It is your conditioning that is betrayed when you make that question. A person who is not conditioned that way, who knows better, will not even ask that question. Really. He may be joyous to come across a Maharshi, but he is not surprised to come across an illiterate Maharshi. We are not surprised by that. The fact that one gets surprised shows that one's conditioning. Chale. Please don't mind. I have known many such parents who have undergone a lot of suffering. And did you read a novel called Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck? In that, that couple is there, the parents. They have many children. They are all grown up and they have their own families and all that. But among those 5, 6 children, there is one child who is called Fool. That is his name. Fool. The child is grown up now, but literally the fool. And so the father dies, and while dying, he says to his eldest son, take care of the fool, because he took care of the fool as long as he lived, and now he is dying. And so take care of the fool. The same thing with mother also. I do not remember the entire story. I read Good Earth long back. Did not have an opportunity to read one more time. Therefore, that in the family there is one handicapped person who is entirely dependent, cannot live its life. Therefore, that situation, that calamity in the family, which is not going to disappear, it will be there. People will be dying, but this calamity remains in place. It won't disappear. When it will disappear, only one day it will disappear. When all these elderly people die and some more also die, the next generation start dying, then this person dies. Then the problem ends. What life cannot mend, death ends. That is how these problems end. And many people live with that problem and they die with that problem. Never complaining, never having self-pity and all that. God has given some tremendous strength to these people. God has given this calamity and also the strength to withstand that calamity. You have to think like that. These things cannot be explained. No explanation can be given. The ways of the higher power are inscrutable. Only you say that and do namaskar and keep quiet. They did not study Gita or Upanishad, yet they do all that is needed to be done to take care of their children. Are they not true karma yogis? Yes, they are the true karma yogis. Adi Shankaracharya was widely considered to be one of the greatest philosophers of Bharat and of all time. and re-established the true purport of the Vedas by emphasizing the teaching of Upanishad and Atmajnanam as the ultimate teaching of Vedas. His condemnation of Karmakanda as extremely limited in its scope, and of karma is unable to give anything but temporary and fragile results, is very strong and clear across the body of his commentaries. Very true. This being so, how did it happen that over time this clear separation between the disparate goals and adhikaris of karma and those of jnanam became confused, to the point where the situation is today, with religion and rituals mixing indiscriminately with the pursuit of moksha for the students and acharyas of Vedanta? How did it happen? You see, this is a huge paradox, not paradox, contradiction, that Shankara uses every single opportunity provided by the text, whether it is Gita or Upanishad. And sometimes even when the text doesn't give opportunity, he creates an occasion to refute in no uncertain terms, rather very vehemently, the karma-jnana samuchaya. You cannot practice karma and jnana together. Karma-jnana samuchaya khandanam, it occupies the major portion of Shankara's teachings. Major emphasis it has got from Shankara. And he was so clear about it. So clear. Not even ambiguous. Not ambiguous at all. So clear. But there are people who are wedded to jnanam and keep away from the snares of karma. There are people like that. They don't promote karma. They just stay with jnanam. Any number of people are like that. But all are not like that. Some, they come into this Vedanta, study it, and conceptualize it. They fail to see the difference between ideation and realization. They don't see the difference. In fact, they are not conscious of two such processes happening within. When you study a text, it can take you to ideation or it can take you to realization. The two paths are open and it can happen either way. That discrimination is totally missing. When that is missing, now ideation appears as realization. Only ideation takes place and that takes the form of realization. Therefore, they end up believing that they have known the truth because they have all the right ideas in the mind. Therefore, when that corruption happened in the understanding of Vedanta, then all other corruptions will come. When the immunity is compromised, any infection can happen. And therefore, when Vedanta became entirely conceptual, so now what is left? You pay lip sympathy to the vision. Lip sympathy. Sarvam khalvidam brahma. Aham brahmasmi mahavakya. And mahavakya upadesha. The senior acharya instructs the young man into mahavakya. What is the mahavakya? Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi, a boy can say it. What do you mean by instruction? So he calls the Shishya, a grown-up man, 20-25-year-old man, the old man, 70-80-year-old, and in an elaborate procession they go together and occupy the gaddi, the seat of some religious place, and then in a big function with a lot of festivities going on. So, in an elaborate ritual, he instructs the Mahavakya. 70-year-old man whispers in the 20-year-old person's ear, Tattvamasi. And that man, Tattvamasi, 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 3 बार बोलता है. This is the fate of Vedanta. And all the 1,000 people. So they have converted Vedanta into some kind of a mysterious, esoteric thing. Now what is left now? The Mahavakya Upadesha itself is converted into a ritual. Then what to speak of other rituals? All the rituals will troop in. And finally, the whole thing is a place of rituals. That is how big mathas dedicated to Shankara function. So, what are you complaining about? There is a proverb in Telugu. If you choose to eat food from a kambal, you know kambal? A woolen blanket. Eat food from a woolen blanket. Don't complain about fibers, What else you will get? You will get fibers only, right? Along with food. No, what are all these fibers? You are eating from a blanket. So, that is how it happens. But then, the point is, it need not happen like that with you and with me. We can steer clear of this contradiction. Not necessary, it need not happen with you. You can live with the vision happily. Let the world go its way. You wander away from the world. World has its ways. World has all contradictions, all complexities, and all paradoxes. It's a melting pot, the world is. You enter into the melting pot and get concerned about it. I can understand the spirit of it though. So you wander away from the melting pot. You are safe. I remember that in this Upanishad itself, in the beginning, Bhashya, the Adhikaris are described as Vishaya Vitrushnaha Mumukshavaha. I remember that. That in this Upanishad itself, while defining the word Upanishad, Shankara says, Ye Vishaya Vitrushna Mumukshavaha, like that he begins. When this is so clear, as are the distinctions given in such mantras as Anyachreyonya Dataiva Preyaha, Te Ubhe Nanarthe Purusham Sinitaha. Yeah, very true. Doramete, Viparite, Vishuchi, the two paths are as separated as possible. Means they are not like this, they are not like this, they are like this, 180 degrees diametrically opposite. That is the Viparite Vishuchi. Avidyaya cha vidyeti jnata. How is this occurring even for those who are studying these same mantras? They are not studying those mantras. They are chanting those mantras. That too when somebody dies. These mantras are chanted when somebody dies. Kathopanishad Prathamadhyaya, you know. Under studying Bhashyakara's comment, they don't study. They don't study Bhashyas. They study only mantras. And they chant them rather than studying them, mostly. Did this degradation happen over centuries? I think so. It happened over centuries. Or is it relatively recent? Not very recent. It happened over centuries. And the original mischief maker is difficult to locate, but it happened over centuries. Is there one simple message, sadhana for the jijnasus? Yes. Find out yourself by inquiring into yourself. And be self-reliant. That is the message. We keep, so that is the single message. Looks like avyakta is used to refer to different things in Gita and Vedanta. Can you please clarify? Yeah, Brahman is called avyakta. In Gita, the avyakta word is used to mean Brahman and also Maya Shakti. Both are called avyakta. In the same verse, they are called avyakta. Avyakto vyaktat sanatanaha. Like that there is a verse in the 8th chapter. There avyaktaha, avyaktat paraha. Something like that. The Prathama Vibhakti avyakta is Brahman. The Panchami Vibhakti avyakta is Maya Shakti. In the same line. So they are used like that. Heard about Brahmakara Vritti and Brahmamayi Vritti. What are these and how are these related? You see, this Vritti, you can connect it with Hrit Manit. The clarity, when there is clarity of understanding, and that vision, which is another name for clarity of understanding, commands the mind, automatically it commands. There is no effort involved there. Then the mind becomes silent. There you refer to in that mantra, Hrida Manisha Manasabhikluptaha. You see Anandagiri. Anandagiri has written. So he says that Hrit, that clarity of vision, which commands the mind, that is what we call Manit Hrit, or Hrit Manit. That is the Brahmakara Vritti, he said. He says something to that effect. So please take it as a homework. I will also see. Anandagiri says that Hrida Manisha, that is what Brahmakara Vritti is. When the mind becomes silent, it merges with Brahman. That is the Brahmakara Vritti. From the mind side, silent mind merging in Brahman is the Brahmakara Vritti, which is same as Brahmamayi Vritti, same. We discussed that everything in the world is within our consciousness. Whether I know or not, a lot of things will continue to happen in Prakriti. No, they don't happen in Prakriti until you know them. There is no galaxy until you see one. Right? Where is it? Where is it? No, it is there. It is there means it is in your consciousness. Till then it is not there. We do not accept existence without knowledge. Okay? Whether I know or not, a lot of things happen. You are imagining like that. They happen only when you know. Till then they don't happen. Okay? You have to think about it. You see, somebody died. The message came after 3 days. So when he died when you received the message. No, he died 3 days back. And where is that 3 days back? 3 days back. Where is it? It is in your mind when you received the message. So what you call 3 days back is in the mind when you got the message. What you call the death is also in the mind when you got the message. Therefore it is a unitary thing. Namely, the person died 3 days back. All of that is in the present moment in the mind. Okay? Therefore, without your knowledge something happened 3 days back. No, there is no 3 days back until you think of 3 days back. Anyway, I tried to explain it. I suppose you got it. Therefore, things happen only when you know them. Till then they don't happen. Some of these things like an asteroid hitting the earth, etc., may impact me and I may not be conscious about it. They do not impact you. They impact the body. And you talk of that impact only when you know about it. Till then there is no impact. You know what? The cancer, till it is detected, it doesn't exist. it exists from the moment you detect it, and then it becomes virulent. The graph of cancer, till you detect it, it doesn't exist, and then it goes virulent. Okay? Therefore, knowing is everything. Suppose you don't detect, don't you have cancer? Of course you don't have it. When you don't detect it, do you have cancer? Suppose the cancer is not detected, it is not there. It is there only when it is detected. You think about it. Okay? And once it is detected, the people become anxious and frightened. And that enhances its growth, that accelerates its growth. Like that. Sometimes not knowing is a blessing also. Asteroid hitting the earth, etc. You have to understand one thing, Jagat Mithya. And asteroid hitting the earth is part of that Jagat, okay? How can I explain this? I have explained already. 9 questions are answered along with the sub-questions. Now comes a 10th question. We'll keep it, at least something I should keep for Tuesday night. The 10th question I will keep for Tuesday night. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam